Lin Jing is a little painter. My hobby is to draw intimate pictures of KPL's first wild scene and other professional players. Those pictures have a common feature, the grandeur will always be the one below. As he painted, Lin Jing ignited his own passion, reaching the level of grandeur. Then, in reality, the scenes of those pictures pulled Lin Jing to experience the grandeur, but Lin Jing was the grandeur in the painting. What should I do when I dance CP in front of steaming and boiling What should I do if I become a third party to the CP? I'm addicted to believe me, I really just want to have some CP novel keywords. No pop-ups for your calls, download the complete collection of your calls in TXT, and read the latest chapters on your calls. Chapter 1. Congratulations on winning the prize. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Congratulations on winning the prize. The 108 calls you received were all calls that I wanted to hear from you. Your call. The weather in Haicheng in early July was a bit bad. Lin Jing received yellow warning messages for rainstorm for several days in a row. Outside the window at 3 p.m., dark clouds slanted down from the sky, making it difficult to distinguish between day and night. Lin Jing opened his computer again and checked his college entrance exam scores, feeling as heavy as the weather outside the window. She has always been doing well in her studies and is one of the top performers in her grade. She also performed consistently in mock exams before the college entrance examination. Everyone thought she was stable, but the result was that she failed the college entrance examination. On the day when she was able to check her college entrance exam scores, she was the first in her class to receive a call from her homeroom teacher. When the homeroom teacher heard her score, she remained silent for 2 seconds before saying, "I've passed one, it's pretty good." Through his phone, Lin Jing could feel the disappointment of his homeroom teacher. Afterwards, I received calls from various classmates, and after listening to her scores, everyone's reactions were similar to those of the class teacher. Ah! Are you joking? Are you sure you don't need to add an extra one to your first digit? Lin Jing, did you enter the wrong admission ticket number? Did you check someone else's score? In fact, Lin Jing's scores in the college entrance examination are not that bad either, but compared to her usual mock exam scores, the difference is a bit excessive. On the day when the college entrance examination scores were released, Yuan personally checked her scores with her admission ticket. At the moment she saw the results, Yuan did not comfort her with disappointment like the homeroom teacher, nor did she dare to believe her classmates, nor did she curse at her like some irritable parents with bad temper. Her expression was very calm, approaching indifference. She didn't say anything, just stared at the scores on the computer for a few seconds, and then stood up and left her room. Afterwards, Yuan never spoke to her again and stopped cooking 3 meals a day. Seeing her at home was like she didn't exist. Lin Jing is most afraid of Yuan's cold violence towards her, and the most unbearable thing is also Yuan's cold violence towards her. She couldn't remember how many days Yuan had been so indifferent to her. At first, she would take the initiative to talk to Yuan and even pick him up from work. But Yuan always treated her like air, not even looking at her in the eye. Over time, Lin Jing began to feel anxious about it, especially in the past week when she frequently felt tightness in her chest and often woke up or lost sleep at night. Lin Jing took a deep breath, turned off the computer in front of him, picked up his phone, and dug out Yuan's WeChat. "Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I was wrong. Mom, it's my fault that I didn't do well in the exam." Lin Jing wrote more than a dozen messages one after another, but in the end, she still deleted them all. She couldn't figure out how to ease things with Yuan. She anxiously picked up her phone for a while, and suddenly a person flashed through her mind. A person who hasn't been in contact for a long time. Her father. Lin Jingru. Lin Jingru and Yuan divorced in her freshman year of high school. 3 months before the divorce, Yuan, for some unknown reason, kicked Lin Jingru out of the master bedroom. No matter how Lin Jing spoke to Jiang Wan in a low voice, Jiang Wan didn't show a single expression to Lin Jing. Perhaps Lin Jing had enough of it. One morning, he angrily smashed a glass and said to Jiang Wan, "Let's get divorced." The two of them completed the divorce procedures on the morning of the same day, and Lin Jing left the house alone. The house, car, and children all belonged to Jiang Wan. Lin Jing didn't have Lin Jingru's phone number stored on her phone, but she remembered it. 11 numbers, she pressed one after another, and then dialed them. The phone rang several times before being answered. Who? As the unfamiliar voice settled, a drowsy yawn came from the other end of the phone. When did Lin Jingru's voice become so young and beautiful? Lin Jing blinked her eyes and looked at her phone screen, realizing that she had changed one of the phone numbers from 5 to 6. She instinctively wanted to apologize, but before the words reached her lips, the person on the other end of the phone spoke again, "Hello." Perhaps it's because she hasn't made a sound on her end for a long time, and the people over there are a bit irritable. Their voices are particularly impatient, as if they can curse at any time. But it was this unfriendly and somewhat aggressive "hello" that made Lin Jing's fingers tremble, and he stopped the "sorry" sound that reached his mouth. She seems to know who the person across from her is. No, it's not like that, it's just it was the peak of online popularity. Lin Jing couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and then impatiently feed the person on the other end of the phone. I feel that this time the voice doesn't seem to be cursing at any time, but rather cursing. Lin Jing instinctively opened his mouth and, feeling nervous, blurted out without much thought. "Hello sir, congratulations on winning the prize. 10,000 yuan in cash and a latest mobile phone." The phone was hung up mercilessly. Lin Jing listened to the busy beeps on his phone and waited for several seconds as if in a dream before turning his head to look at the screen. She stared at the top 11 digits of the call record, blinked her eyes, hesitated for a few seconds, and saved the accidentally broadcasted phone number. Name: Kuang, mobile phone. 18225. The final of this year's Honor of Kings World Championship will be held in Shenzhen. 2 hours before the start of the competition, the outside of the Spring Cocoon Gymnasium is already overcrowded. The teams that made it to the finals are the Shanghai GDT team and the Chengdu HJC team. Both teams belong to veteran teams, and their popularity is on par. The audience queuing up to enter the arena all hold lanterns, and at a glance, the fans from the two teams cannot distinguish between them. In addition to the fans of the team, more people hold lanterns with the names of the players printed on them. Among them, the support badge for the GDT Team Miracle is the most common, and the lights are uniformly golden. From a distance, the crowd queuing outside the gymnasium looks more like a coiled golden dragon. Compared to the bustling scene outside the gymnasium, the GDT team's backstage lounge inside the gymnasium is very quiet. On two black leather long sofas, there were 5 people whispering on one side, 4 of whom were GDT's mid-laner, top laner, shooter, and assistant. The other looked slightly older as GDT's coach. On the other side of the sofa, there was a person lying with a team uniform covering their head, sleeping soundly. If it weren't for his phone suddenly ringing, it would be really difficult to detect his presence. After hanging up the phone, he put his team uniform back on his head and had no reaction. The coach, who had completed pre-match guidance with a few other team members, looked up at the person across from him who seemed to have fallen asleep again and called out his name, Kuang. The person on the sofa remained motionless. The coach walked over and called him again, Miracle. The person lying down finally moved, and after about 3 seconds, he slowly lifted his hand and lifted off his team uniform, sitting up slowly. The coach bent over, picked up a bottle of water from the table, and handed it to Kuang. The grand occasion was twisted open, and I drank half of the bottle with my head held high before standing up like I had completely regained consciousness. Coach! What time did you sleep last night? Why are you so sleepy? Kuang remained silent and yawned as he walked into the restroom. The coach came over and said, "Who just called?" Shen Kuang washed his face with cold water, propped up the sink, lifted his eyelids to look at the coach in the mirror, and said in a vague voice, "Scammer." The coach didn't hear clearly and looked at the young man in the mirror, whose skin was so white that it was emitting a cold white light. "What?" Shen Kuang turned off the faucet, glanced at the coach blocking the door, drew 2 tissues, wiped the water off his face, and enunciated clearly again, "A female scammer." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Kuang Zai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Kuang Zai. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the rain was still falling, and raindrops were haphazardly hitting the glass windows, making a thunderous sound. Lin Jing was holding a pillow in her arms, huddled in a chair, holding her breath and staring intently at the iPad in front of her. The 5th game of the Honor of Kings World Championship Finals is playing inside. The game has reached its final moments, and the 2 commentators are shouting excitedly with each word you say. GDT forcibly dismantled the tower in the highland, and HJC's Guan Yu was resurrected, and even bypassed it. HJC's Guan Yu was a bit powerful, he killed GDT's center player with 1 strike, and the shooter was almost taken away. Fortunately, he flashed in time. There are only 3 people left on GDT's side, and the shooter has returned home. It's a bit difficult to get a wave, so we should retreat. Yes, we should retreat. Ah. What happened? Why hasn't HJC's middle order been lost? Miracle, it's Luna from Miracle. The director will give us a replay. The pronunciation of the word "fong" in the commentary has not yet been finalized, but another commentator spoke up. Luna, double killed, double. No, it's 3 killed, 3 killed. 4 killed. 5 killed. As the commentator stood up excitedly, GDT's line of defense arrived, and Luna, with her blood flowing, landed in front of the crystal and swung her sword towards HJC's crystal. At the moment of the crystal explosion, 2 commentators shouted in unison, "Congratulations to GDT for winning the 2019 World Cup Finals." At the same time, a dense barrage of bullets drifted across the iPad screen in front of Lin Jing, covering the scene. Congratulations to GDT, congratulations to Miracle. Kuang Shen is still the same Kuang Shen, always able to surprise you unexpectedly. Kuang Shen is yawning again. This is the number of yawns in today's game. Miracle, amazing. Great. GDT, amazing. For Kuang crazy, for Kuang crazy, for Kuang 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 bang 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 the wall. The competition has been over for an hour now, and Lin Jing still hasn't come out yet. It's not too early, so she went to take a shower first. After coming out, she lay in bed and couldn't help but watch the classic footage of the competition online with her phone. After reading it, she entered Weibo, which was not surprising. Several topics related to today's competition were on the hot search list. Hashtag GDT Championship hashtag Miracle Luna 5 kills hashtag Shen Kuang drowses to championship hashtag number 18 yawns hashtag Lin Jing, who had just finished watching those classic shots of the competition, didn't find it tiring to watch them again in Weibo's hot search. The Weibo with the most likes was the once sleepy scene. Standing on the podium and lifting the trophy with his teammates, he slowly lifted his eyelids, his eyes clear, and he laughed wildly at the audience. The top-rated content on this Weibo post is Shen Kuang, GDT Miracle, KPL's first wild player, participated in the college entrance examination at the age of 16, and became the top scorer in the provincial college entrance examination. The reason why he was selected as the top scorer was to get his family to agree with him playing games. In the same year, he participated in the KPL Autumn Competition, setting a record of 30 consecutive wins for GDT and winning the first championship in the history of the King of Glory competition. In any subsequent competition related to King of Glory, as long as there is a grand occasion, the championship belongs to GDT. There are many replies in this review, among which the content that occupies the top spot in the reviews of the building is. As of the 2019 World Championship, Kuang Zai has won a total of 5 championships, and the above are the records of Kuang Zai under the age of 18. Now, please pay attention to Kuang Zai after the age of 18. This Weibo video has exceeded 20 million views and 5 million likes, with a popularity comparable to that of top-tier celebrities in the entertainment industry. The grand occasion is really hot, so many celebrities come to interact with him to gain popularity. The reason why he is so popular is twofold. Firstly, the game Honor of Kings is so popular. Secondly, his appearance is so high that he can stand up to any male celebrity who relies on his appearance to make a living. A female fan who did not mix well in the entertainment industry, but gained a large number of votes that even male celebrities in the entertainment industry envied in their dreams. These female fans are divided into 2 categories. One is his girlfriend fans who are waiting for him to reach adulthood, and the other is his mother fans who watched him grow up at the age of 16. It is easy to distinguish between grandiose girlfriend fans and mom fans, with mom fans calling Kuang Zai and girlfriend fans calling Kuang. Lin Jing held his phone and scrolled through the comments section of Kuang. At first glance, 90% of them were Kuang Zai. In fact, it's not that everyone insists on becoming a mom fan and raising Kuang as their son. Speaking of which, the culprit behind this situation is still Kuang himself. In his first game of debut, he won the MVP and, with his face that was so beautiful that people couldn't move their eyes, instantly became popular throughout the entire esports fan circle. At that time, Kuang gained almost all his girlfriend fans. Not long after, the fact that Kuang had a male sexual orientation was exposed. Many female fans at that time were heartbroken, but they were heartbroken. Kuang's game was played so well, and over time, the girlfriend fans he brought gradually turned to mom fans, leaving behind only his girlfriend fans. A small group of girlfriend fans who still dream of breaking the record straight. Even Lin Jing himself, although 1 year younger than Kuang, is fundamentally inclined towards being a fan of his mother. GDT once again won the championship, and the club owner was very happy. That night, he generously invited everyone to a dinner. Returning to the base, it was almost 1 o'clock in the morning. The first thing a group of well-fed people do when they come in is take out their phones and play games. Xiaomua, the middle Dan from GDT Team 2, hasn't slept yet. When he saw them coming back and finished playing the game, he immediately leaned over and said, "I just received several gifts, all for Brother Kuang, and one of them was from a man." A group of people are not surprised, playing games and browsing Weibo. Among them, those who participated in the competition placed orders and saw someone on the forum criticizing him. They even cursed a few times in displeasure. Xiaomua couldn't help but approach Lin Jing, the friendly assistant of GDT team, as everyone was so calm. "Brother Jing, the things that the man gave me were a bit strange. There were roses, chocolates, and so on." Before Xiaomua could finish speaking, a slightly rough male voice came from Kuang's phone not far away. "Kuang Shen." Kuang remained silent, holding his phone alone to select heroes. The man spoke again, "I'll go, it's really Kuang Shen. I actually matched you. Have you received the gift I gave you?" Xiaomua stopped his words and turned to look at Kuang. 2 seconds later, he was shocked and ran into Lin Jing's arm, saying, "Brother Jing, it's the man who brought roses to Brother Kuang in the afternoon." Compared to Xiaomua's shock, entering the grand scene of the game, calmly controlling Han Xian to step out of the crystal. The man who sent roses to Kuang chose Kai Wenji and followed Kuang throughout the entire journey. However, Nai didn't give Kuang much blood, but he said a lot. "Kuang God, I didn't expect I could match you. We really have fate. Kuang Shen, if your speaker is not turned off, it means you are listening to me, right? Kuang Shen, have you seen the gift I gave you? There is a card in the rose, have you seen it? That's my intention. Kuang Shen, I am sincere to you. The game lasted for 10 minutes, and this brother talked for 10 minutes. Shen Kuang played quite casually. He made a mistake and the screen went black. He saw that his brother was still talking non-stop, raised his hand, typed 4 words, and sent it out. Is it 0 or 1? The elder brother thought that he was moved by the grand occasion, and excitedly quieted down for 2 seconds. He said a bit shyly, 0. Han Xian, who was too lazy to type, casually clicked on the voice and said, coincidentally, I'm also 0. The new book has arrived, and the book review section will officially launch in the early morning of the 30th. And the glory is not 0. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Sister. Shen Kuang's phone made a loud pop sound, as if someone's phone had hit the ground. The grand occasion seemed to be unheard of. He calmly jumped into the wild area and slid down in front of the red buff. We can only be sisters. Leaping into the dragon pit with a grand scene of red buffs, he glanced at Kai Wenji, who was leaning towards him with a skill on the screen, and slowly spoke again, listen to your voice, bigger than me. He paused deliberately, sister. A burst of laughter came from Shen Kuang's phone, not sure which of the other 3 teammates it was. Kai Wenji, who was rushing towards him, was stopped for a full 5 seconds by the sound of her sister's thunder in the middle of the road before heading in the opposite direction. Until the end of the game, the chattering brother never spoke a word again. Shen Kuang slept late yesterday. A few hours ago, he played a few games and now he's a bit tired. After playing a casual game, he put away his phone and plans to go upstairs to sleep. I watched his little MO all the way, my eyes gradually twisted as I watched him, my mouth so scared that it could fit an egg. Until Shen Kuang disappeared at the corner of the stairs, Xiao Mo slowly regained his composure. He bumped into Chen Jing's shoulder as if he had seen a ghost and said, Jinggu, Kuanggu is really. Chen Jing glanced at Xiaomo. Xiaomo quickly stopped the blurted-out numbers behind him and clarified with a desire to survive, first of all, I declare that I have absolutely no intention of discrimination. I am simply curious and asking. Watching Xiaomo almost swear with 3 fingers on the spot, Chen Jing teased him and said, are you tempted? Ah. Xiaomo reacted for 2 seconds, shaking his head like a tambourine. No, no, no. Chen Jing. So that's just being afraid. Xiaomo blinked and said, Chen Jing reached out and patted Xiaomo's head, saying, don't be afraid, Kuang Shen doesn't like you. Xiaomo. Zhongdanlan Bowen couldn't bear Chen Jing teasing newcomers like this. Xiaomo, don't listen to Lao Jing's nonsense. Your Kuang brother's sexual orientation is very normal. Shooter Li Bai, who had finished a game, thoughtfully explained to Xiao Mok, this matter has to be talked about 2 years ago. When Kuang Zai first became popular, a group of girls chased him like stars. Some chased him to the club. For a period of time, the outside of the club was full of people, and wherever Kuang Zai went, there were people secretly filming him. Some even rang the club doorbell frequently to see Kuang Zai, which seriously affected the life and training of the group of people in the club. One morning, at 6 o'clock, someone came to pack and deliver packages. At that time, Kuang Zai was awakened as soon as he fell asleep and opened the storefront. To him, it was just a face-hating phone and a few girls chattering confessions. In an extremely irritable state, he bent over and glared at a girl's phone camera. On the spot, he said, I like men. Xiaomo. Xiao Mo added the scene that Li Bai had said and recalled the lines from Shen Kuang in the game. She couldn't help but sigh, Kuanggu really dares to say anything. Chen Jing, who knew why Shen Kuang stayed up late last night, said, he not only dares to say anything, but also dares to do anything. Yesterday, during Kuang Shen's live broadcast, fans of the HJC team ran to his live broadcast room and scolded him, saying that he only allowed HJC to carry shoes. In a fit of anger, he banned all his fans and threatened that if he stayed up all night, he would still win the championship the next day. If Yugo found out, he would be forced to deduct his money and hold a 2-hour non-stop criticism meeting. Yuji's name is Yang Yu and he is the coach of GDT. Xiao Imo listened with a look of admiration and said, Kuang Zai is so dragging. Chen Jing sneered and looked as if he had never seen the world before. I know when your Kuang Zai finished the competition and was interviewed. When people asked him, it was clear that you were not in good form during the competition today. You kept yawning because you were nervous and didn't sleep well last night. What did he answer? Xiaomao looked expectant. Chen Jing said, once you sleep well, there will only be 4 games left. Fans will come all the way to watch the games, so you have to watch more to make the ticket price worth it. Xiaomao. God's his mother ticket price is worth it. This reason is absolutely amazing. Kuang is crazy. Lin Jing was awakened by the sound of a door opening. When she woke up, it was already daylight and the time displayed on her phone was 8 o'clock in the morning. Surprisingly, she slept for a full 7 hours, which was the best night she had slept during this period. There was another sound from outside the door, and she sat up propped up, found her slippers, and stepped out of the room. Yuan happened to come out of the restroom. Lin Jing stood at the door and looked at her, Mom. Yuan brushed past her and entered the master bedroom as if she hadn't heard her. The door was closed behind her, and after about 2 minutes, it was pulled open again. Yuan, who had changed clothes, didn't even glance at Lin Jing, so she changed her shoes and left home. In the spacious and bright room, there was only Lin Jing left. She stood in place for a while and entered the kitchen. The stove was cold and unused for several days, and the dining table was wiped clean. There was nothing else on it except a box of tissues. The indescribable suffocation swept through once again. Lin Jing closed his eyes and took several deep breaths before turning around and returning to the room. Picking up his phone, Lin Jing clicked into Weibo. The topic of yesterday's GDT championship is still on the hot search list, and in addition, there is a new topic hashtag the grand occasion is 0 hashtag. Clicking in, I found a private message from a big V revealing that it was a short video of a recorded game page. The small horn in the upper left corner lit up one after another, and the sound of grandeur came out clearly from inside. Coincidentally, I am also 0. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Mining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. 2 years later. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 2 years later 2 years later. At 10 o'clock at night, the self-study room of Peking University was brightly lit. Lin Jing sat in the last row by the window, wearing white Bluetooth earphones, listening to English words and calmly completing the last high math question. Putting down her pen, she looked up at the classroom. The final exam is about to take place, and it's almost 11 o'clock now. The classroom is still full and there aren't many available seats. After finishing today's learning task, Lin Jing didn't stay much longer. He quickly packed up his things and returned to his dormitory. My roommate is not here at the moment. Lin Jing finished washing up, held his iPad, and leaned over the table to finish the painting that had been completed in the past 2 days, and then uploaded it to Weibo. Sweet and sweet student. It's another day to mine for Kuang Zai. After 2 years, her account has gained nearly 100 million followers, and the popularity of Weibo has increased from a few dozen likes to tens of thousands. Within a minute of posting on Weibo, the comments have already exceeded 100. Finally crouched down to my wife's immortal image. It's been a week now, and finally we've produced grain, sleeping slot. The scale of the picture this time is a bit too large. Kuang Zai grabbed the bedsheet with his hand and asked me to imagine a play that is not suitable for children. It's already 2021, and there's still a lot of fandom going on. It's been 800 years since then, isn't it? Lin Jing swiped the screen, not paying much attention to the content, but his sharp eyes noticed the outdated reply. She paused her fingertips, stared at the sentence for 2 seconds, and then moved her fingertips to blacklist the blogger. Not long after, her phone received several private messages in a row, indicating that the account she had hacked had changed to a different account to spread rumors. Black me, can't even the grand fans afford to play like this. Did I make a mistake? Didn't the grand occasion last? As early as 2 years ago, he had already passed out. Wake up, brainless fan. Shen Kuang is Kai Bai, Shen Kuang has passed, Shen Kuang has passed, Shen Kuang is Kai Bai. Lin Jing looked at the private messages constantly coming in on the screen, and without thinking, he sent the account back into the small black room. After a few seconds, she felt increasingly uncomfortable as she thought about it. She entered the blacklist and released the account, quickly typing a line with her fingertips and throwing it over. For Kuang crazy, for Kuang crazy, for Kuang Kuang Kuang, bang 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 the wall. The other party was a bit confused. Lin Jing continued typing as if he hadn't seen it. Kuang's cubs fly bravely, and Mama accompanies them forever. Kuang Zai yyds Kuang Zai, you are the best. The other party said, are you a really brainless fan? The other party said, you are so mentally disabled. Lin Jingzhuang couldn't see it, so she repeated the enthusiastic fan support words from beginning to end. When she didn't know the exact number of sentences, the other party blocked her. Although this little episode has come to an end, Lin Jing is still somewhat affected by it. In fact, this is not the only person who has passed away in a grand occasion. It is rare now, at most last year. On the second day of reaching adulthood at the age of 18, the 2019 KPL Autumn Tournament officially kicked off. In the first few games of the regular season, the momentum remained as strong as ever. At that time, the youth were still shining brightly, but after about half a month of playing, everything began to change. GDT introduced 2 new members, replacing the then Zhongdan Lan Bowen and auxiliary Qin Jing. Those 2 newcomers have never played and lack experience in the game. They were against a strong team from KPL at the time, and even though they had a good time, they still lost. After losing 2 consecutive games, GDT fans began to curse, and the official explanation given by GDT was to cultivate new players and research new tactics. The following matches were still played by those 2 newcomers. When Qin Jing played as an assistant, his core was centered around Sheng Sheng, while the new assistant core was centered around the shooter. Sheng Sheng's wild play became like a semi-assistant, and his record was not as impressive, which caused another wave of dissatisfaction among fans. It was from then on that some people exposed that Shen Kuang's personal heroism was too strong. This was a team game, and he only focused on showcasing himself. Some also reported that Shen Kuang was praised too high by everyone, drifting away, and not playing the game well. Some said that Shen Kuang did not participate in training competitions. Overall, the situation became more and more intense. It wasn't until the 2019 KPL Autumn Championship GDT missed the championship position that more and more people began to believe that the peak of his debut was no longer the invincible god they touted. In 2020, Qin Jing was listed for transfer to the CEC team by GDT, and the first striker, Lan Bowen, announced his retirement, while Sheng Sheng became a substitute. As of today in 2021, Sheng Sheng has not played any games for almost a year and 2 months. 2 years ago, the most popular paragraph I browsed online was Shenguang, GDT miracle, KPL's first wild player, participated in the college entrance examination at the age of 16, and became the top scorer in the provincial college entrance examination. The reason why he was selected as the top scorer was to get his family to agree with him playing games. In the same year, He participated in the KPL Autumn competition, setting a record of 30 consecutive wins for GDT and winning the first championship in the history of the King of Glory competition. In any subsequent competition related to King of Glory, as long as there is a grand occasion, the championship belongs to GDT. As of the 2019 World Championship, Kuang Zai has won a total of 5 championships. The above are the records of Kuang Zai under the age of 18. Now, please pay attention to Kuang Zai after the age of 18. However, the young man, who was dressed in fresh clothes and boastful, stayed forever at the age of 18. In the following 2 years, after the age of 18, the prosperity and career achievements were blank. The dormitory door was pushed open and the roommate returned. Lin Jing, holding a takeout paper bag, bounced up to Lin Jing and said, "Jingjiang, do you want to have a late-night snack?" Lin Jing regained consciousness and shook his head, saying, after brushing his teeth, "I won't eat." Okay, Lin Jing didn't force herself. She pulled out her chair and sat down, tore open her paper bag and nibbled on the fried chicken. After taking 2 bites, she looked up at Lin Jing as if she remembered something. "Jingjiang, have you heard that Miracle is going to play in the semi-finals of GDT and JZ this weekend?" Lin Jing turned his head and said, "Ah. Is it true or false?" Lin Jing. "Really, I've browsed everything I saw on the forum." Lin Jing remained silent and logged into the official forum of King of Glory with his phone in hand. As expected, Miracle's comeback after a year was ranked first. This game is on the weekend, and it's still in Beijing. Lin Jing hardly hesitated and went to see the tickets. Although Kuang Zai's sports career in the past 2 years was in a mess, he still had a large number of fans, and the tickets had already been sold out. Lin Jing ran to Xianyu to search, and indeed someone was selling tickets at a higher price. The seat was in the front row, and the price was a bit expensive. Lin Jing gritted his teeth and placed an order. On the day of the semi-finals of the 2021 KPL World Championship, Lin Jing set off early to rush to the stadium. Nevertheless, she waited in line for nearly 10 minutes before entering the field. Her location is really good, in the front VIP area and also in the 3rd row. After sitting down for a while, the surroundings were gradually filled, except for a few empty seats in the 1st row. The competition was about to start, and Lin Jing focused all his attention on the stage, not noticing that 3 people were sitting in those empty seats. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. He is my son. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. He is my son. The 3 people who came in were very low key, and after sitting down, there was no conversation. Those who watched the scene watched, while those who played with their phones lowered their heads did not attract too much attention from the people around them. The semi-finals were not as grand as the finals, and there were not as many flashy gameplay before the official matches. After the 3 commentators took their positions, they first introduced themselves, and then began to introduce the results of the GDT and JZ teams this season. The commentators were fairly impartial, discussing the strengths of both teams and highlighting their weaknesses. In short, whether it's the GDT team or the JZ team, they are both very strong teams. I believe today's game is still very exciting. After discussing the situation of both teams, the contestants began to enter the arena, and the commentator introduced the contestants to the audience again. Speaking of the contestants, one of the commentators thought of the recently leaked rumors. I heard that the GDT team will send a veteran today. Although this veteran is called a veteran, he is actually not old at all. Before the commentary could be finished, there was a burst of cheers and screams from the audience. The name Miracle was shouted by fans, almost causing the entire scene to be overturned. Commentator A, however, in GDT's first game, it was still the starting lineup, without our impressive performance. Commentary B, it may be a new trick developed by GDT, which will only be seen in the next few rounds. Commentator A, it's been a long time since I watched Kuang Zai play a game, and I'm still looking forward to it. Commentator C, Alright, the players are all in their positions, and the coaches on both sides have already shook hands. Let's enter the first game. It wasn't until the two teams began to compete for heroes that the cries of "miracle" gradually disappeared. Lin Jing saw that the scene had finally become slightly cleaner. He put down his finger, which was covering his ear, and leaned towards Kuang's ear, saying, "Kuang, have you seen those pictures?" Kuang continued playing the game without lifting his head, until the opponent's crystal exploded before he took off his headphones and said, "What picture?" "Lin Jing. Just the pictures I sent you." Kuang remained silent and clicked on WeChat, only to see more than 10 red reminders shining on Lin Jing's profile picture. Clicking on the dialog box, Kuang randomly selected a picture to zoom in. He only glanced at it and then switched back to the game without interest. "Lin Jing. How about it? Is it very emotional?" Kuang said perfunctorily, with a touch. Lin Jing said, "Well, I also find it very emotional, especially you. Every painting is very emotional." Kuang cursed heartlessly, "Get out of here, don't blame me." Lin Jing said, "What does it mean to pull on you? Those pictures were originally drawn by you." Kuang's fingertips were about to start the game, but after 2 seconds, he turned his head and glanced at Lin Jing. Lin Jing said, "Don't tell me you don't know. Those pictures are quite popular online. They were drawn by a well-known blogger who has been drawing them for almost 2 years. There should be nearly 100 pictures in total, with you in each one." Kuang thought of the picture that had just been swept away, looked at Lin Jing expressionlessly for 2 seconds, then lowered his head and clicked into WeChat. The scale of those dozen or so pictures is quite open. Apart from being fixed, the other person keeps changing, and there is a common characteristic that he will always be the one below. Lin Jing said, "This blogger has over 1 million fans by drawing you. I have conducted a special archaeological survey and she said 2 years ago, coincidentally, I started drawing you from the day of 0. Lan Bowen, who was sitting next to him, focused on watching the game and didn't listen to Lin Jing and Kuang, suddenly blurted, "Damn it, GDT's singles were actually killed by Jay-Z's singles." Lin Jing looked at the screen, and the guide happened to replay the scene where a single player in GDT was killed by a single player in Jay-Z. He didn't hesitate to curse, "This dish forces a single player," and then focused on watching the game. Kuang lowered his head and glanced at the picture sent by Lin Jing. After a moment of silence, he also pressed off the screen and began watching the game. GDT and Jay-Z are on par in terms of level, and both sides are in good form today. The score has been very tight, and we unknowingly reached the 7th game, the decisive moment. This is already the 7th game, and GDT has not yet expressed any intention of changing people. Fans who came for Miracle are gradually becoming dissatisfied. Isn't Miracle supposed to play? It's already the last game, why haven't he played yet? I came specifically for my family's situation, so that's all you showed me. Lin Jing listened to the conversation between the two girls behind her and pursed the corners of her lips. The 7th game started, and GDT still maintained their current lineup. In the last game, Jay-Z made a wild mistake, which led to a collapse in the early stages. The game ended in less than 20 minutes. The two girls behind Lin Jing didn't see much of the last game. They complained that Miracle didn't play in the whole game. At the end of Roast, one of GDT's current fans who fought young Sinian was dissatisfied. There must be a reason for the coach not to let the grand occasion go. Besides, GDT has won now. We roast about us, is it none of your business? It's none of my business, how can I drip? The game is over, everyone is sorting out and leaving. Fans on both sides started arguing, blocking Lin Jing's path and hindering her from going out. Lin Jing said, "Let go," twice in a row. Seeing that Yang Xinyan's fans were only focused on sparring with Kuang's two fans and ignored her at all, she simply sat back in the chair. The arguments on both sides became more and more intense, and in the end, both of Kuang's fans had already left. Yang Xinyan's fans were still shouting angrily, "Where did these two lunatics come from? It's like having a brain pit. They keep shouting every day about what to do at your home, and it's uncertain what to do. After that, they will lose continuously like the year before last. Wake up, now GDT is the world of Yang Xinyan, not the world of pomp. I'm afraid you didn't live in the last century, because pomp has long been his mother dead." Lin Jing, who had been completely detached from the incident, lifted his eyelids and glanced at the swearing Yang Xinyan family fan. Perhaps it was several times in the past few days that someone had been swaying in front of her, saying that Kuang was out of breath, or perhaps she had rushed over with enthusiasm to watch the game results but didn't see the person she wanted to see on stage, or maybe Kuang's fans had left, and she was still cursing incessantly. Lin Jing felt the fire pressing in her heart suddenly explode, and without thinking, she raised the mineral water bottle in her hand and knocked it hard on the seat in front of her. Yang Xinyan's fans shut up and lowered their heads. Lin Jing looked up at her and said, "What skincare product are you using?" Yang Xinyan's fans were taken aback when asked, "What?" Every word Lin Jing uttered was tinged with annoyance and impatience. "I said, what skincare product are you using to keep your face so thick?" The fan calmed down and said, "Fuck me. I left a few fools and another one came. I wondered if it was your husband or your boyfriend who protected him so much." Lin Jing was choked by the words husband and boyfriend and fell silent for a moment. It was impossible to argue with someone and then shut up halfway through. Lin Jing, who was only thinking about getting back at him, instinctively blurted out, "He's my son." A soft laugh came from the nearby sidewalk. Lin Jing looked up with a displeasure towards Yang Xinyan's fans. 3 people walked along the nearby aisle, heading towards the exit. In the hot summer, they were wearing hats as if not afraid of the heat. Among them, the boy in the middle was tall and thin, wearing long sleeves and zippered up to the top, covering half of his face. Affected by the epidemic, everyone wore masks. Although he couldn't see the face of the boy wearing long sleeves clearly, Lin Jing still recognized her son at a glance. No. Recognized the grandeur. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Are you still drinking? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Are you still drinking? Standing in front of the grand occasion, slightly shorter than the grand occasion, a young man wearing black short sleeves with a silver accessory hanging around his neck, his eyebrows and eyes curved. The accessory around his neck is so familiar to Lin Jing that it has appeared at least 3 times in her paintings. It's the other protagonist in the movie, Fat Water Doesn't Flow Out to Outsiders, former assistant of GDT, current assistant of CEC, Chen Jing. Looking at his trembling shoulders, without thinking, one can also know that the smile just now was from him. At this point, the people have almost exited, and only a few of them are left in the first 3 rows of their area. Yang Xinyan's fans prepared a lot of words, but before they could fully express themselves, they heard Chen Jing smile. She instinctively turned her head back and was about to turn around and continue arguing with Lin Jing when she suddenly realized something. She looked back and recognized that the person in front of her was a grand occasion. Her arrogant aura dissipated instantly like a punctured balloon, replaced by the awkward feeling of being caught on the spot for speaking ill of someone behind her back. However, Yang Xinyan's fans were awkward and quick to react. The next second, they picked up their bags and left. It wasn't until the fan infiltrated the crowd queuing up not far away that Lin Jing blinked and his mind became slightly clearer. Kuang, the 3 of them had not yet left, but stood about 5 meters away from her, watching her. Lin Jingma silently looked back at them, feeling a bit confused. The 2 sides briefly exchanged glances for a few seconds before Lin Jing realized what he had just said. "He is my son, my son's son." Lin Jing's fingertips trembled, and the mineral water bottle he was holding fell to the ground with a loud bang. Then he rolled along the smooth ground a few times and reached Chen Jing's feet. The closer the competition venue was to the stage, the lower it was. Watching the mineral water bottle rolling straight down below and standing behind Chen Jing, I didn't even glance at my feet. I lifted my toe and stepped on the body of the mineral water bottle. The white sneakers moved 2 times along the bottle body towards the bottom of the bottle, exerting a slight force and directly stepping on the bottle to stand on the ground. He lowered his head and glanced at the mineral water at his feet, only to find that there was still a small half bottle of water inside. He lifted his hat up and revealed a small tuft of black hair, saying, "Do you still drink it?" Although everyone brushes online every day with phrases like, Kuang Zai bravely flies, Ma Ma always follows, and, Kuang Zai cheers, Ma Ma loves you, after all, it is online. In reality, if she said those words, she could barely make it through. But what she said? She said, "He is my son." I don't know, I thought she was cursing. Lin Jing was immersed in the embarrassment brought by the large-scale social death and didn't even hear what Kuang said. Kuang waited for 2 seconds and lifted his eyelids, saying, Lin Jing opened his mouth hidden behind the mask and said, "Ah." Kuang remained silent for a second, lazily bending over to pick up the mineral water at his feet and walking towards Lin Jing. Lin Jing thought he was here to settle accounts with him, instinctively shrank his shoulders, and then thought of the way Yang Xinyan's fan ran away without saying a word, deciding to follow suit. With this thought in mind, she suddenly stood up. Her movements fluctuated a bit violently, causing Kuang's footsteps to stop in shock. Lin Jing thought that copying others' 30.6 strategies was her top priority, and she also wanted to come up with new ideas. After thinking for a second, she raised her arm and compared her heart to the grand scene of lifting her foot and walking towards her. Kuang stopped the action of lifting his arm and handing out mineral water. In a state of confusion, Lin Jing gave him a bright smile through his mask, tilted his head in comparison to his heart, and then ran towards the exit direction without looking back. Kuang looked at her back and sneered. Chen Jing asked, "What are you laughing at?" "It's nothing." Kuang lowered his head and glanced at the mineral water bottle in his hand, thinking to himself. The girl escaped quite quickly, like a rabbit. After 2 seconds, he smiled again and said, "Oh, come and watch a game, and you have to help people throw garbage." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Losing one game for 10,000 yuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Losing one game for 10,000 yuan. Watching the game until now, Chen Jing has not had dinner yet. He shouted that he was hungry, and the 3 of them came out of the gym and called a car to go straight to a nearby hot pot restaurant. Although it was almost 9 o'clock, the hot pot restaurant was still overcrowded. 3 people waited at the door for about 10 minutes, finally waiting for the waiter to tidy up a table for 4. After sitting down, Chen Jing held his phone and finished scanning the QR code. Just as he handed it to Kuang and called for him to order, Kuang's phone rang. It's a phone call from Xiaoma, the current middle dan of GDT. Kuang answered, and through his phone, he could clearly hear Yang Xinyan's voice coming from Xiaoma's side. "Waiter, let's have a bottle of wine first." "Kuang Gu," Xiaoma quickly spoke out, "we're celebrating." "You Gu asked me to ask if you're coming or not." Kuang. "No." Xiaoma. "Alright, I'll see you at the base tonight." Waiting for the grand occasion to hang up the phone, Chen Jing pulled his phone screen and ordered dishes, asking, "Xiaoma." The grand occasion casually let out a Chen Jing. Shouting, "You go to the celebration banquet." Kuang remained silent. After finishing the dishes, Chen Guandi pushed his phone to Kuang and said, "See what else you want to add." I didn't see the grand occasion, so I placed an order directly. While waiting for the dishes, Chen Jing went around Weibo for a few minutes and couldn't help but curse, "Shit, GDT is really disgusting." Lon Bowen hung up his girlfriend's job search phone and said, what's wrong? Chen Jing. Kuang Zai's fans went to the GDT official blog to scold them, saying that GDT deceived them. GDT explained that Kuang Zai was not feeling well today, and then GDT bought a wave of hot searches for Yang Snian's goods, boasting how powerful he was in fighting wild and overtaking Kuang Zai in those days. GDT simply lost face in order to promote the new star player. Yang Snian has been praised for a long time, but his mother hasn't learned to walk independently, so he has to tie Kuang Zai to his fever every time. Chen Jing cursed for a while, then looked up at Xing Sheng and said, Kuang, as soon as the spring season ends, there will be a new transfer period for a new year. If you miss this year, you will have to wait for another year. GDT still insists on not allowing you to transfer now. Lon Bowen sneered as if he had seen through it and said, there's no need to ask. Even if Kuang Zai hasn't played games for over a year, his popularity is still the strongest. GDT hasn't drained Kuang Zai's last bit of value. How could he be willing to let him go? Chen Jing. Fuck, there was no evidence for that. If there was any evidence, his mother would have caught them. Compared to Chen Jing's irritability, Shen Kuang's face remained indifferent. Chen Jing couldn't bear it anymore and kicked the tip of his shoe under the table, saying, Kuang Zai, you can't just keep living like this. This job is like youth food, and the best state is only a few years. It's not affordable. Anyway, you study well, otherwise you should go back to college. Shen Kuang didn't even lift his eyelids and said, I won't go. Chen Jing said, so what do you want? You can't just sit on the bench and guard the water dispenser, can you? Shen Kuang turned his head to look at Lon Bowen next to Chen Jing and said, how is your waist injury? That's still the case. Lon Bowen poured a glass of water. If it weren't for my waist really not being able to handle it, the position of KPL's top single now might still be mine. After finishing hot pot, Shen Kuang returned to the GDT base and it was already 12 o'clock. Everyone went to the semi-final celebration banquet. The base was empty and there were not many people. Shen Kuang returned to his room, took a shower, washed away the smell of hot pot, pulled up a chair, played a few games, and then lay in bed. Before going to bed, he went to Weibo to take a look, and as Chen Jing said, the online rhythm took off. He said that Yang Sinian was the first KPL player, and the glory was already in the past. Shen Kuang looked at it and somehow stumbled upon at Tian's Weibo account. Before watching the game, what Chen Jing had told him flashed into his mind. He thought for 2 seconds and then entered at Sweet Student's homepage. Shen Kuang fell asleep while browsing Weibo. The next day, when he woke up and unlocked the screen to look at the time, what he saw at first glance was an exciting and beautiful picture. He was stunned for a moment, flipped his phone over, and saw the miracle engraved on the back. Only then did he confirm that it was really his own phone. After a few seconds of delay, he finally understood what was going on and couldn't help but curse in his heart that he was sick. When others paint him, it's okay to paint him like this, but he still follows in his research. This is not about illness, it's about something. Shen Kuang dropped his phone, picked up the short sleeve next to him, put it on his body, walked into the bathroom with slippers, took a shower, and just finished squeezing toothpaste with his toothbrush when someone knocked on the door. He bit his toothbrush, lazily swayed to the door, and opened it. It's Xiaomo. Kuang, you're awake. Shen Kuang remained silent and made way for the door. Xiaomo looked around and made sure no one was in the hallway. He quickly squeezed into the bustling room and closed the door. He stood at the door of the restroom, watching the scene of a slightly bent body, half-wet hair brushing his teeth. After hesitating for a while, he took a few steps forward and said, Brother Kuang, I have something I want to tell you. Shen Kuang gulped his mouth and blurted out the word, say. Xiaomo hesitated for a moment, closed his eyes, and let out a drum as he said, "Kuang Zai, last night during a gathering outside, I accidentally overheard Yang Xinian and Yugo proposing that you participate in the KPL final performance competition. This way, everyone knows that your level has declined, just like entertainment industry players, you can only play the performance competition. Then, Yang Xinian even told Yugo that you will be the commentator for the final. A grand feast. Chamois muttered roast. You were asked to explain to him the finals he participated in. It is not clear that you are telling the public that you are retired and can only explain to the new generation of professional players." Upon hearing this, Shen Kuang suddenly smiled and said, "It's really quite interesting." As Shen Kuang spoke, he threw his toothbrush into the toothbrush, drew 2 tissues, wiped away the water droplets on his face, and threw it into the nearby trash can. "It's really interesting," he said. Chamois finished typing the report and then slipped away. Shen Kuang fiddled with his hair in the mirror twice, put on his team uniform, and went downstairs to have breakfast like a normal person. As he was about to finish his meal, Yang Xinian woke up from sleep and walked into the restaurant with a messy head of hair. When he saw the grand occasion, he was taken aback and said, "Kuang Shen." Shen Kuang lowered his eyelids and slowly drew a tissue to wipe the corners of his lips. Yang Xinian stood in front of the water bar, pouring water while laughing innocently and shouting to Kuang Shen, "I was really embarrassed yesterday. I hit a bit too hard, and the coach also hit a bit too hard. We all forgot about you. You came to the scene yesterday, and you stayed until the end. Anyway, you should have played one game." Shen Kuang rolled up the tissue in his hand and watched as Yang Xinian remained silent. After finishing a glass of water, Yang Xinian smiled and said, "Yesterday it was my negligence with the coach. Kuang Shen, don't take it to heart. It's almost the end of the month, and I need to make up for the live broadcast time. I'll go live first." Shen Kuang did not stop him. Until Yang Xinian disappeared, Shen Kuang lowered his head and chuckled lightly. The next second, he got up, kicked off the chair behind him, walked into the training room, and opened his computer. He hasn't been live streaming for a long time, and within a minute of logging into the live room, many people have already flooded in. He logged into the mobile game repeatedly, while casually picking up a few bullet comments to respond. Why did it suddenly live stream? It's not a live broadcast, it's for PK. Who will we compete with? We will compete against our famous KPL in the first game against Wild Yang Xinian. No wonder Yang Xinian also live streamed, made an appointment in advance. Of course, he made an appointment in advance. Shen Kuang said while changing the name of the live broadcast room. In a 1v1 PK match, you lose one game for 10,000 yuan. Are you crazy or are you crazy? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Termination of Contract. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Termination of Contract. After Shen Kuang never appeared on the stage, he hardly ever started broadcasting. He had a rare live broadcast and even showed his face, which was already explosive enough. The live content was still about to compete with Yang Xinian. This news was like a Chinese New Year for fans. In the moment when Shen Kuang set the live broadcast room title, his popularity had exceeded 1 million. He and Yang Xinian are from the same team, and the live streaming contracts are all on the same platform, with many fans jumping on both sides. Yang Xinian had just set up the account inscription and was about to rank when he looked up and saw a group of people scrolling through the barrage. Dream linkage. Losing 10,000 yuan in one game, GDT is truly a powerhouse team, playing so much. I won't wake up, I'll just stay in bed and see who loses the most. I bet, hit 1 on Miracle and 2 on Xinian. 111111111 1111 2222222222222222. Yang Xinian was confused by the barrage and studied for a while before figuring out what was going on. He picked up his private phone and sent a message in the club group. GDT Xinian. At GDT Miracle, Kuang Shen, why is there a rhythm in the live broadcast room, saying that we need to compete? Shen Kuang heard the sound of his phone and glanced at the nearby desktop. He didn't click on the message sent by Yang Xinian and stared at the barrage in the live broadcast assistant, continuing to interact with fans. Why did you suddenly remember the PK? Isn't this a semi-final victory? GDT is happy and wants to send benefits to the majority of fans. Shen Kuang usually uses a training machine for training, and has not installed any other software besides games. The phone he used himself was placed on the nearby table, and during the brief moment he was speaking, his phone kept ringing non-stop. He built the room with his training machine in hand, while long pressing the lock button on his phone to turn it off. Entering the room, he invited Yang Xinian online. Yang Xinian did not accept it. Sheng invited again, is Xinian the network card? Why not come in? Who can help me check what's going on? After finishing the sentence, Shen Kuang, Yang Xinian's live broadcast room's popularity skyrocketed by 500,000, and bullet comments flew up. Accept, miracle is already waiting for you, to check the situation for our family's condition. Is it a match or not? It shouldn't be a last-minute hesitation, right? Can you really do it? Yang Xinian watched the barrage urging on the screen and once again witnessed a grand event in the team group. Shen Kuang, like air, never frolicked in the team group, but he was invited for the third time in the game in the live broadcast room. More and more people in Yang Xinian's barrage asked him if he was afraid. He gritted his teeth, dropped his private phone, and picked up his training machine to accept the grand invitation. Before starting the game, Shen Kuang looked down at himself wearing a team uniform engraved with GDT, as if recalling something. He fell silent for a moment, raised his hand to buckle the camera onto the table, took off his clothes, and put them upside down on his body. What's going on? What about people? Kuang Zai, show your face, numbness needs to look at your face. I'm licking the screen happily, why don't I have a face? Woo, give me Kuang Zai Shenyan. Shen Kuang glanced at the barrage of protests on the screen and raised his hand to raise the camera. Kuang Zai's clothes are on backwards. So did Kuang Zai just take off his clothes in front of the screen? Kuang Zai, we treat you like a son, but you actually treat us like outsiders. Shen Kuang tugged his lips and lowered his head to choose a hero. Shen Kuang and Yang Xinian played a total of 18 innings. From 11 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Both of them are live streaming, and no one in the club dares to break in and stop them without authorization. 18 games, Shen Kuang won 17 games. The only game that Shen Kuang lost was the last game. He had already developed in just 5 minutes, standing between Yang Xinian's crystal and Yida. Yang Xinian came back alive once, every second, and this cycle lasted for almost 5 times. When Yang Xinian's mentality collapsed and he was about to surrender, Shen Kuang quickly grabbed the lead and nodded surrender. You can't shave your head, let's play one game. Shen Kuang then invited Yang Xinian again. Yang Xinian just came in, and the two people's computer screens went black, forcing the live broadcast to be interrupted. Immediately after, the door of the training room was pushed open, and GDT's manager Zhang Wei and coach Yang Yu walked in with great momentum. Shen Kuang, what are you up to? When did GDT agree to live stream a PK with Yang Xinian? Take a look at the headline in your live broadcast room. Losing one game for 10,000 yuan and gambling with the game is a serious violation of our club's rules and regulations. I will definitely take this matter seriously. Last night, Yang Xinian discussed with Yang Yu and suggested that you replace GDT as a commentator in the final and play in an entertainment game. Today, you're making Yang Xinian lose out. Shen Kuang lazily sat on the chair, drooping his eyelids to listen to Zhang Wei's angry scolding. He lowered his head to look at the clothes he was wearing in reverse, and suddenly chuckled lightly. Then he reached out to grab the collar and forcefully tore the clothes, tearing them in half. He threw the clothes onto the table and looked up at Zhang Wei, saying, "Let's terminate the contract." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Fate Goodbye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Fate Goodbye. Zhang Wei was taken aback and said, "What?" Shen Kuang kicked away the esports chair behind him and picked up the phone on the table, saying, "I, dare to do anything when I go crazy. So I advise you to think about the termination fee instead of using any other ulterior motives." The PK match between Shen Kuang and Yang Xinian has caused a lot of trouble, with almost everyone in the club blocking the entrance to the training room. The door to the training room was not closed, and everyone could hear what Shen Kuang said clearly. Xiaomao saw him coming out and instinctively said, "Brother Kuang." Shen Kuang reached out and patted Xiaomao's shoulder, then went upstairs without looking back. Returning to the room, Shen Kuang opened the cabinet and casually picked out a white T-shirt to put on his body. Then, he picked up a few private servers, stuffed them into his backpack with a computer and charging cable, and walked out. Xiao Mo stood at the door and immediately looked up as he came out. "Brother Kuang, are you really leaving GDT? Grand occasion." "Kuang Gu, do you plan to just play games after leaving GDT?" Xiao Mo choked up in her throat for a while before spitting out the rest. "Retired." Shen Kuang smiled and didn't answer Xiao Mo's words, "Play well." Xiao Mo lowered her head with red eyes. Shen Kuang stood in front of him for 2 seconds, then turned around and walked away. After taking 2 steps, he stopped and said, "Goodbye by chance." After speaking, Shen Kuang lifted his foot and left under the gaze of many people at GDT. At the moment he walked out of the GDT base building, he wanted to look back, but in the end, he still didn't look back. A taxi happened to be parked on the roadside, and he opened the door and crawled in. At the moment the car was moving, he glanced out the window. I only saw a corner of the building where he had been staying for 4 years. Goodbye by chance. If fate permits, goodbye to King's Canyon. The taxi drove for a while before Shen Kuang realized that his phone had not been turned on since it was turned off. He took out his phone from his pocket, pressed the power button for a few seconds, and when the screen lit up, he released his finger. After about half a minute, his phone shook wildly in his palm. He didn't look down until the phone button came down. The WeChat message exploded. In addition to Yang Xinian at him in the GDT club group and asking him what PK means, there are also Yang Yu and Zhang Wei, as well as several people from the second team who have a good relationship with Yang Xinian at him. There were so many messages that he didn't even bother to watch the grand occasion. He directly clicked on the group settings and wanted to leave the group. Just a second before he fell on his fingertips, he thought of so many people in the group, so he left so that no one might notice. So he changed the name in the group notes and returned to the group. Miracle. At GDT, Xinian, vegetable chicken. After dropping this bomb, Shen Kuang left the group without hesitation. In addition to the GDT group, there are also many professional esports players asking him and Yang Xinian what's going on, among which Lin Jing is the one with the most messages. CEC scene. Kuang, have you suddenly woken up? Finally, you're starting to abuse Yang Xinian. I've been displeased with him for a long time. CEC scene. Hahaha, this game was great. CEC scene. Have you seen the plane I sent you? CEC scene. You cannot shave your head, let it be a game, hahaha, hahaha, the damage is very high, and the insult is extremely strong. CEC scene. Hurry up and take a picture of Yang Xinian for me to see if his face is black now. CEC scene. Sleeping on the job. Kuang Zai, are you retiring? Before Shen Kuang could reply to Chen Jing's message, Chen Jing's phone came over and Shen Kuang answered without saying a word. Chen Jing was already there, babbling like a machine gun. Kuang, do you really want to retire? This is too sudden, right? You're only 20 years old. Why should you retire? Yang Xinian is 1 year older than you. You can hold on for me until he leaves first. Damn it. Shen Kuang, I'm here to talk to you, but you changed your Weibo name and profile picture. Damn it, your social circle has also changed. Chen Jing looked at Shen Kuang's personal social media app, which had deleted everything related to GDT. He hesitated for 2 seconds and became more serious. Kuang Zai, to be honest with me, do you really want to quit? Although I told you yesterday that it's really not possible to go back to school, to be honest, I still hope that you can stand on stage again because I know you're still in a good state, so I'm not willing to quit like this. After deleting the last post on my social media about the status of GDT, I suddenly spoke up. As soon as the spring season ends, it will be a New Year's transfer period. Chen Jing was taken aback for a moment, feeling that this sentence was a bit familiar. He reacted for 2 seconds and realized that this was what he said to him last night. What? Kuang Zai, GDT has finally agreed to your transfer. Shen Kuang. No, it's not. After a pause, Shen Kuang said, it's you. Chen Jing, is there a transfer? Yuan has gone for further studies and has been away from home for the past few months. During the summer vacation, Lin Jing decided to stay in Beijing, thinking that he would also be alone when he returned. Yuan heard her decision and did not object. After 2 months of summer vacation, Lin Jing didn't really want to live on campus. After deciding not to go home during the summer vacation, he has been looking for a place to live. Before she could find a house, Yuan called and said that she had an old classmate in Beijing who happened to be on a long business trip this month. She had a dog at home and needed someone to take care of it. Anyway, she had to find a place to live, so she decided to stay with her old classmate. Yuan has always been very autocratic. Without asking her for any opinions, he helped her form a group and said, Lin Jing, this is Aunt Qin. Yuan, that old classmate, was also kind-hearted enough. He didn't ask anything and just came up and threw out his home address and password, and even sent a 60-second long voice message. Jingjing, is it called Jingjing? It's okay if it's not called Jingjing. Auntie just calls you Jingjing. Everything at home is very comprehensive, you can use it casually, and there are many rooms. You can choose which one you like to live in. With an aunt, she goes to the designated place every day to clean up. She cooks delicious food, and you can tell her anything you want to eat. She will buy you groceries, but you don't need to give her money. She will keep an account and ask me for reimbursement. You don't need to take special care of the dog, mainly at night. I'm afraid it's scared when it's alone at home. Lin Jing. The place to stay during the summer vacation has been decided on like this. On the afternoon of the final exam, Lin Jing packed his things and took 3 subway trains according to the address given by Aunt Qin. Finally, he found his destination. Lin Jing thought it was an ordinary residence, but when she arrived, she realized that the community was all single-family villas. She dragged a box around the villa community for about 20 minutes and finally found a place. Walking to the door, she entered the 6 digits sent by Aunt Qin on her phone one by one. The door not only did not open, but also received a reminder sound. Please enter the correct password. Lin Jing thought she had typed the wrong number and was about to input it again, but just as she typed a number, the window on the 2nd floor of the villa was pushed open and she said, I found the wrong door. End of this chapter.